Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football Dill. Late Friday night, Mario Cristobal, the Miami Hurricanes, getting some really big time news coming out of the transfer portal. Former TCU center James Brockermeyer committing to Miami. This is back to back to now back years of Miami going to the transfer portal, bringing in a veteran center that's played a lot of football, and quite frankly, you can't really argue with the process. I mean, it worked really well with Matt Lee. Zach Carpenter came in, gave you a lot of good snaps at center in 2024. Very similar kind of football player, and James Brockermeyer as well. They'll lead in pass protection, right? 500 pass pro opportunities in 2024. 500. TCU was throwing the rock all around the yard. 1 sack, only 8 quarterback pressures. I mean, some elite pass pro numbers. And Dill, you said it best. You get into James Brockermeyer's film, the first thing that stands out is this kid's so smart. You can tell he's been at the college football landscape for a long time, starting at Alabama, going to TCU. Whatever Miami's trotting out at quarterback, it's going to be a new quarterback that was not Cam Ward in 2024. There's no better way to kind of ease a new quarterback into this offense than bringing in a really smart center. I think this makes a lot of sense for a lot of different reasons. And Dill, this offensive line for Miami in 2025, it's going to be really damn good. Want to get into James Brockermeyer, talk about what this Miami Hurricanes offensive line will look like. I want to have a little bit of a conversation at the quarterback position as well. Now, before we get into it, as always, the Miami Hurricane fans, a lot of which who've been rocking with the fellas for a very long time, as we've talked about this team on the recruiting trail, in the transfer portal. We can't thank you guys enough. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys. Dill with the newly minted Miami Hurricanes commitment sweatshirt. James Brockermeyer, how we feeling?
And I think you said it, like just a wily veteran center that, again, has really worked well. You've seen Miami go to this well. I think Matt Lee played really well for them. You go back last year, our Michigan guy, I'm blanking on his name.
Zach Carpenter, crazy.
Carpenter played really well for them too. And you see how it kind of gels that offensive line together. And probably the one thing James Brockermeyer lacks is that like maybe elite power. You don't necessarily see that in his game. But I look at how you pair him up with 2 big physical guards next to him. He does do a really good job working up to the second level on double teams. So I think he can kind of cover for his one deficiency. But at the end of the day, he's a guy who I think does a good job tying the offensive line together and is going to be, I think, that leader of that group. If you will.
It's funny because you said it best. I thought the same thing. Look, if there's one thing that might be a quote-unquote hole in his game is he's not a role grading center. Like, he's not going to come off the football and just start moving bodies all around the football field. When you play next to Inez Cooper and probably a guy like Matt McCoy or Pancake Concho, you don't need to. I mean, you're just a guy working on double teams, and you said it best. Like, what he does really well is, hey, I'm a good athlete. I can work to the second level off double teams and pick up linebackers. So it is kind of a uniquely really good fit for Miami as well. Really, you can tell he plays a big time role when you watch TCU, plays a big time role in pass protection. You know, he is kind of the general of the offensive line at TCU, does a really good job picking up the late blitzes, does a really good job picking up games and stunts as well. This is a kind of a blue chip guy. You know, I don't think he's going to be a top 50 NFL draft pick, but you know you're going to get damn good play from him in the 2025 year. And Dill, this is probably the last time Miami's going to have to go to the transfer portal at center for a couple of years. You got S.J. Alafatuli coming in who, look, probably could have started as a freshman. Like, if there was one guy that I think can play early in this class.
I don't think it's totally implausible to go beat out James Brockermeyer because what you said, like, again, he's a really clean player. But if SJ is kind of ready in between the years, if you will, I mean, physically, he's a little bit more gifted for sure. So yes. I think you've set the floor now extremely high for the center position. If SJ beats him out, like, all the power to SJ, like, that's going to be a really interesting guy. That'll be like when Francis Mauigoa kind of took that right tackle job over, I should say. You get excited when you see freshmen come in. And you also have like decent veteran pieces along your offensive line.
Yeah, I think this makes sense though. Like, as much as I would have confidence with SJ playing as a freshman, because I do think he's about as ready as I've seen an offensive lineman come out. I mean, obviously you were talking about Francis a couple of years ago, but he's ready. But if you're going to have, I mean, there's now chatter about true freshman Luke Nickel running the offense in 2025, which I don't hate, by the way. You probably don't want to have a true freshman center snapping him the football. That there would be some serious growing pains. So if you do have a guy like Luke Nickel who's taken over this offense, it's nice to have a guy in James Brockermeyer who's been at the college football landscape for a while, which still is a nice segue into I do want to talk about the quarterback position for Miami. We talked about it after the bowl game loss to Iowa State. Look, I think there was and still is some confidence around Emory Williams, not only within the Miami fan base, but I think more importantly between the walls of the program. But I also don't think it's fair or unfair to say that the confidence was probably a little bit shaken after what we saw in the second half against Iowa State. There's been buzz. I don't think this is going to happen, but I have his picture on the screen because you have seen kind of the buzz the last 24 hours about Jaden Maeva. Dill, if you were Mario Cristobal and Shannon Dawson, and granted, you're not, but if you were, and it's fun to kind of imagine, where / what would you be looking to do at quarterback going into 2025?
I'm not 100% sure it'd be Jaden Maeva. I think what I want is a safer option. I look at the way Jaden Maeva finished that. Like, I don't know that USC is totally comfortable with him being the starter for them. You're now hearing another true freshman kind of thrown into the mix with Husan Longstreet possibly being the guy at USC. So I look, Jaden Maeva probably not my first choice. I'd look for a guy who's a little bit more proven, a little bit more of a safe option. Because again, Jaden Maeva just never really cleaned up.
Yeah, he's the opposite of safe. If we're talking, he's gonna make some really good.
Like, go back to UNLV film, it was certainly fun, and they made some big time plays for USC, but a lot of mistakes, and it didn't really feel like that trajectory ever went on the downslope in terms like was
agreed. The decision making was never great, and it still isn't great for Jaden. And I'm with you. Like if Miami's bringing in,
Miami's going to be the team you kind of like their best version. It's going to be a big physical team that can run the ball.
Okay, that's where I want to go. That's where I want to go with this. That was the main thing. Sorry, I'm talking over you a little bit, but you kind of got me worked up with this topic here. Miami does not need a Cam Ward to have success on offense next year. They just don't. That run game, to me, what you saw from Emory Williams in the second half, I mean, his best snaps were just handing the football off, and they were mashing on Iowa State. You just need a quarterback that can go manage a game in 2025. And if we expect the defense to get better, I think they could bring in a defensive coordinator off the streets. I think it's going to get better. There's a pathway for Miami to having a very good offense in 2025, and that's running the football. Jaden's one of those guys that probably, to me, doesn't fit. I'd want a safer option that can take care of the football, that can make the necessary throws, but we don't need a Cam Ward to have a really good offense in 2025. But you don't want to have a guy that has turnover problems like Jaden does. What I think would make a ton of sense is Mark Gronowski from South Dakota.
That's what I was going to say. I'd take him in a heartbeat over Jaden Maeva because, again, runs the ball really well.
Yes.
Makes good decisions, like a guy who's a little bit more polished. And there's certainly a jump from South Dakota State up to the Miami level.
But he's got
the arm talent to do it. So I look like played a lot of football, done a really good job
and
there.
He takes care of the football, too. Like, I mean, you go watch some South Dakota State stuff, and it's like, the ball doesn't really go into harm's way. The one knock I've seen on him, which I really don't agree with, is, well, when he plays power 4 defenses, he doesn't perform that well. Well, it's hard to perform well against power 4 defenses when you're playing with an FCS roster. With all due respect to South Dakota State, that's a very good FCS program. There's levels to it. And you could put Cam Ward on an FCS roster, and he probably wouldn't put up amazing numbers against the power 4 defense. Probably put up pretty damn good.
Realistically, when you're playing at South Dakota State as the quarterback and you go bump up a team that you're got to punch way above your weight, you got to take some chances. You got to play some hero ball at quarterback. Yeah, you certainly saw a bit of that against Oklahoma State for sure. He did make some plays.
Yes.
Like, I wish you'd had that one back. But again, when they go play a team like North Dakota State, that's a really good, sound football team. He's really plays a tight football game. So I look like I don't worry as much about that issue, if you will, that criticism that, well, what does he do when he plays power 4 teams? It's not super relevant because Miami is a team that isn't exactly me punching up. They're mostly me punching down when they show up.
And I would think Miami would have a chance at his first visits to Iowa, and I know he's a Midwest guy, so maybe he's comfortable up there.
Miami
man, if
wants
you're
him so bad.
yeah, like if it's you and I when you're saying, hey, you're an NFL caliber quarterback that could is eerily similar spot to where Cam Ward was 12 months ago. I'm thinking about going to the NFL draft, but I think I might want another year to show what I can do. Well, shoot, it just worked really well for Cam Ward. I figured Mark Gronowski, you're looking at it and saying, why not? There's certainly a better offense around you at Miami than in Iowa City, Iowa. That's my take on it as well. And I kind of like the process. I mean, you saw some names like Jackson Arnold early in the portal, like guys who were probably pretty dang expensive to bring in. I think Miami's focus is, hey, we got some other positions on this roster that we need to address. We don't need a Cam Moore caliber quarterback. In fact, there just isn't a Cam Moore caliber quarterback in this year's portal. Go get a solid one. And I think your offense is going to be just fine. It's going to look different, but I think it's going to be just fine. If you can make this defense better, that's where Miami starts reaching their potential in 2025. I guess I'll throw it out here. I will close on this. I mean, right as we were getting ready to record King Mack hits the portal, Miami needs safeties. St. Thomas Aquinas kid, Miami wanted him out of high school. It would make sense is all I'll say with that. For start his career at Penn State, goes to Alabama, 2 years of eligibility left. We'll see if Miami kicks the tires. All right, we'll go out on that. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. Again, if y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys. Have a phenomenal Friday night. The boys will talk to y'all later.